The scent of vanilla and caramel swirled together, filling the kitchen of Elena Carter, a renowned pastry chef and owner of an exclusive dessert brand in San Francisco. On the marble countertop, rows of delicate macarons sat neatly, each one a testament to her precision and artistry. She reached for a freshly baked batch, her sharp eyes scanning the smooth, flawless shells. Elena wasn't just a chef, she was an artist. A woman who had spent her life transforming sugar and butter into edible masterpieces. But today was different. She was preparing a special selection of desserts for the Tech Innovation Gala, the most prestigious event of the year. What she didn't know was that this event would change her life forever. New York shimmered under the glow of city lights as Elena Carter stepped out of a sleek black car in front of the Tech Innovation Gala. She took a deep breath, fingers tightening around the custom case holding the exquisite desserts she had spent days perfecting. Inside, the grand ballroom was a spectacle of opulence. Crystal chandeliers, elegantly dressed elites, the soft clink of champagne glasses mingling with polite laughter. But Elena wasn't here to admire the decor. She had one goal: to ensure that her dessert table became the highlight of the evening. With swift precision, she oversaw the arrangement of her signature treats: passion fruit mousse with white chocolate, lavender-infused macarons, and dark chocolate bonbons filled with salted caramel. Within minutes, murmurs of delight spread through the crowd as guests approached, curious to taste the creations they had heard so much about. Elena Carter. A deep, authoritative voice spoke from behind her. She turned, meeting the gaze of a man whose presence commanded attention. Nathan Sinclair, CEO of one of the world's leading tech corporations, one of the most influential figures in the room. Nathan was tall, with dark brown hair and piercing gray eyes that seemed to assess and intrigue in equal measure. His black tailored suit fit him with effortless perfection, but what caught Elena's attention wasn't his appearance. It was the way he looked at her. Focused. Interested. "They say your desserts are the most anticipated part of tonight." Nathan picked up a macaron, rolling it between his fingers before taking a bite. A small, knowing smile played at his lips. "I can see why." Elena crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. "I didn't realize tech CEOs had such refined palates." Nathan tilted his head slightly, his gaze sharp yet amused. "I appreciate anything made with passion." Something about the way he said it made her stomach tighten. Their conversation felt like a chess match, charged, deliberate, exhilarating. "Do you have time for a drink?" he asked, his eyes never leaving hers. Elena hesitated for a fraction of a second. She was here to work. But something about the confidence in Nathan's presence made it impossible to ignore. "Maybe after dessert," she said, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. Nathan's smile deepened as he raised his glass. "I'll be waiting." What Elena didn't realize was that this conversation was just the beginning of a night that would change everything. The event ran later than expected, but Nathan Sinclair waited. As Elena Carter finished packing up the last of her desserts, he approached with an easy confidence, his gaze steady. "The gala's over. Now it's time for you to have a real meal," Nathan said, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. Elena raised an eyebrow, hesitating. "Are you inviting me for a late-night dinner?" Nathan shrugged, his gray eyes glinting under the city lights. "I figured a chef like you would appreciate good food." She almost declined, but something about the way he looked at her, curious, expectant, made her nod. "Fine, but I choose the place." They ended up at a small bistro in West Village, a cozy spot with dim golden lights and the soft hum of jazz playing from an old speaker. Elena was surprised that Nathan hadn't picked a high-end restaurant. "Not expecting a billionaire to eat somewhere like this," Nathan smirked, ordering 2 glasses of red wine. Elena tilted her head, intrigued. "I'm more interested in why you picked this place." Nathan swirled his wine, his voice thoughtful. "I grew up not far from here. Before my life became about numbers and stock prices, I was just a kid sitting in that corner, dreaming of something bigger." Elena was quiet for a moment. For the first time, she saw a different side of him. Not just the powerful CEO, but a man with a past. A man with dreams that once had nothing to do with money. They talked through the meal, about struggles, ambitions, and the dreams they never told anyone. Nathan listened as she shared memories of her grandmother's bakery, the reason she had chosen pastry over traditional cuisine. In return, Elena was surprised to learn that Nathan once wanted to be a designer before being swept into the corporate world. As the wine settled between them, so did the tension. By the time they stepped out into the quiet of the New York night, the city felt smaller, more intimate. Nathan glanced at her. "Do you believe in unplanned moments?" Elena smiled. "If I say yes, what would you do?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached up, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear before brushing his lips against hers. The first kiss was slow, deliberate. Like a discovery neither of them had expected, yet neither wanted to resist. No words were spoken as they left together. That night, they shared more than just conversation. They found solace in whispered breaths, in the warmth of each other's touch, in the way their bodies fit together as if they had known each other far longer than just a few hours. And Elena had no idea that this night would change the course of her life forever. 2 months later, Elena Carter realized something was wrong. She was used to long hours in the kitchen, but lately she felt constantly exhausted, dizzy, and most concerning of all, nauseous every morning. At first she blamed stress and her demanding schedule, but as the symptoms persisted, a strange suspicion crept into her mind. One morning, while testing a new chocolate recipe, the scent suddenly became overwhelming, making her stomach twist violently. She barely made it to the restroom in time, heart pounding. And that was when it hit her. Without hesitation, she bought 3 pregnancy tests, part of her still hoping for a negative result. But as all 3 displayed the same undeniable answer, Elena felt the world tilt beneath her. Her breath hitched as she sank onto the bathroom floor, the test clutched in her trembling fingers. One pink line, then another, and another. No, this can't be happening. Her heart pounded as she pressed a hand to her stomach. Hours later, sitting in the sterile brightness of the doctor's office, she could barely process the words as the doctor smiled and said, "Congratulations, Elena. You're expecting triplets." 3. Shock hit her like a tidal wave. She had prepared herself for life-altering news, but not this. Motherhood had never been in her plans, let alone carrying 3 babies at once. She knew she had to tell Nathan Sinclair. That evening, after hours of gathering her thoughts, she picked up her phone and sent a text. "We need to talk. Can we meet tonight?" His reply came almost instantly. "I'll be there." Nathan arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet, his usual composed, confident demeanor intact. But as soon as he saw Elena's tense expression, his brows furrowed slightly. "What's wrong?" Elena swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and spoke the words that would change everything. "I'm pregnant." For a brief moment, she saw Nathan blink, like his mind was working overtime to process the information. But before he could respond, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not just 1, 3. Silence stretched between them. Nathan held her gaze, and for the first time, she saw something unfamiliar in his usually controlled expression. Shock, uncertainty, and something else she couldn't quite define. Nathan was silent for a few moments. Elena could see the shock in his eyes, but it didn't last long. He exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair, his fingers tightening around his coffee cup. 3 babies. His voice was low, as if grounding himself in the reality of it. Elena nodded, forcing herself to stay composed despite the rapid beat of her heart. "I know this isn't what you expected, and it's definitely not what I planned." Nathan lifted his gaze, his expression sharp, as if he had just made an important decision. "Then we need to make a plan." Elena let out a soft, humorless laugh. "That's a very CEO response." Nathan set his cup down, leaning forward. "I'm not talking about a business plan, Elena. I'm talking about us, about them." She swallowed hard as he continued. "Marry me." The words froze her in place. "You? You're serious?" "Completely." Nathan met her gaze without hesitation. "I want these children to have stability. I can provide for you and them. Whether you want to keep working or change your life, you won't have to do this alone." Elena felt something tighten in her chest. Part of her wanted to believe him, but another part hesitated. "Nathan, you don't have to do this out of obligation." Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "This isn't just obligation. This is an opportunity for us to build something real." But could she believe that? Elena stared at Nathan, her mind racing with 100 different thoughts, but before she could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. A name flashed across the screen. Victoria Laurent. She caught the flicker of tension in Nathan's expression as he declined the call without hesitation. Crossing her arms, Elena arched an eyebrow. Who was that? Nathan leaned back, exhaling. "Something I should have told you sooner." Her chest tightened. "What is it?" He clasped his hands together, his gaze distant. "Before I met you, I was arranged to marry Victoria Laurent." Silence stretched between them. Elena felt like the floor had just shifted beneath her. "It was a business move," Nathan continued, his voice quieter. "A deal between two families to solidify power in the tech industry. I never loved her, but my board has been pressuring me to go through with it." Elena let out a dry laugh, void of any real amusement. "And your proposal to me? Is that just another deal?" Nathan shook his head instantly, his gray eyes burning with intensity. "No, you are not a deal, Elena." He paused, as if carefully choosing his words. "I don't know exactly what's happening between us, but I know one thing. I don't want to lose you." Elena's heart wavered, but doubt still lingered. The only question left was, would Nathan be willing to walk away from everything to prove that he truly wanted her, not just another marriage of convenience? Elena had never been someone who trusted words easily. She had built an entire career with her own two hands, never relying on anyone for help or protection. But Nathan Sinclair, the man who always had a plan, was determined to prove that this time he wasn't just speaking, he was acting. The morning after their tense conversation, Nathan sent a simple text. "I'll pick you up at 9 a.m. We have a doctor's appointment." Elena read the message, slightly taken aback. She hadn't asked him to come, but at exactly 9 a.m., Nathan was at her door, coffee in one hand, the other opening the car door for her. At the clinic, he listened intently as the doctor explained every detail of her pregnancy, the risks of carrying triplets, the necessary dietary adjustments. When the doctor asked if she had any questions, Nathan spoke before she could. "What supplements does she need? What can we do to reduce any risks?" Elena glanced at him, surprised and touched. He wasn't just showing up, he was invested. But what surprised her even more were his actions after that. The next day, while she was working in the kitchen, Nathan walked in with a large bag. "I got something for you." She frowned as she peeked inside, a stack of pregnancy books, a list of prenatal classes, and a meal plan designed specifically for carrying multiples. "You're taking this seriously?" she asked, crossing her arms, challenging him. Nathan didn't even flinch. "I'm not just saying the words, Elena." He stepped closer, his voice steady. "I want you to know that you don't have to do this alone." And he followed through. He went with her to every appointment, learned how to massage her back when the discomfort started, adjusted her meal plans to make sure she was getting the right nutrients, even taught himself how to cook a few basic dishes. One evening, Elena walked into the living room and found Nathan practicing how to tie a baby carrier, using a stuffed bear as a stand-in for an infant. She laughed, but deep inside, warmth bloomed in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, Nathan really meant it this time. Maybe he wasn't just stepping up out of obligation. Maybe he was doing this for them. Nathan sat in the boardroom of Sinclair Technologies, facing 12 members of the board. The tension in the room was thick as Richard Sinclair, his uncle and one of the company's largest shareholders, stared him down. "The marriage between you and Victoria Laurent isn't just personal," Richard said, his voice firm. "It's strategic, you know that." Nathan crossed his arms, his gray eyes sharp with resolve. "And what if I say no?" A murmur rippled through the room. Victoria, seated at the far end of the table, adjusted her perfectly styled blonde hair and sighed. "Nathan, we both know this was never about love. It's about duty." Nathan leaned forward. "My duty now is to Elena. To my 3 children. Richard scowled. You're really willing to throw everything away for some woman? Nathan cut him off. Not some woman, the mother of my children. And if this board can't accept that, I'm prepared to buy out the shares of anyone who doesn't believe in my vision. Silence. Nathan had made his final move. Victoria studied him for a long moment before letting out a slow exhale, her expression unreadable. Then she gave a small, knowing smile. One filled not with anger, but a quiet kind of resignation. So, you finally made your choice. I suppose I always knew this day would come. Nathan stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Yes, and I have no regrets. As he walked out of the boardroom, he pulled out his phone and sent a message to Elena. I chose you. It's always been you. Elena clutched Nathan's hand as another contraction racked through her body, her breaths coming in sharp gasps. She had never felt pain like this, but more than the pain was the fear. The babies were arriving 2 weeks early. Nathan, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Nathan leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead, his voice steady but thick with emotion. I'm here. You've got this. The delivery room buzzed with movement, nurses and doctors calling out vitals, the steady beeping of the fetal monitors filling the air. 3 babies. 3 new lives about to begin. All right, Elena, the doctor encouraged. One more push. With every ounce of strength left in her, she bore down, and then the sound she had been waiting for filled the room. A cry. A girl, a nurse beamed as the doctor lifted the first baby into view. Elena sobbed as relief and joy washed over her. Luca, tiny but strong. Moments later, another cry pierced the air. Another girl. Elena let out a shaky laugh through her tears. Ava. She felt utterly drained, but when the doctor said, one more to go, she dug deep, summoning every last bit of strength she had left. And then Noah was born, his wail louder than both his sisters. Nathan trembled as he held his son for the first time, wonder and disbelief flashing in his steel-gray eyes. 3 perfect babies, he whispered, looking at Elena with pure love. Thank you. Elena, exhausted but radiant, smiled through her tears. We did it. And just like that, their family had begun. 3 months after the birth of their triplets, life for Elena and Nathan was filled with cries, sleepless nights, and complete chaos. But amidst all of it, there was love, deeper and more real than ever. One evening, after finally putting Luca, Ava, and Noah to sleep, Elena stepped into the living room to find Nathan waiting. He had been busy all day, yet here he was, looking at her with the same quiet tenderness. I have a surprise for you, Nathan said, leading her out to the balcony. Elena's breath caught as she took in the sight before her. The small rooftop garden was glowing with warm fairy lights, rose petals scattered across the table, and in the center, a small velvet box. Her heart pounded as she turned to Nathan. He took a deep breath, his steel-gray eyes steady and unwavering. For the past 3 months, I've watched you become an incredible mother. You're strong, loving, and everything I never knew I needed. Then he knelt down, opening the box to reveal a timeless, elegant ring. Just like her. Nathan took a deep breath, his steel-gray eyes filled with something raw, something unguarded. Elena, I never believed in fate. I thought life was about control, about strategy. But then you happened. You turned my world upside down, and I don't want to go back to who I was before you. He knelt, opening the box with a steady hand. Marry me, not because of duty, not because of the babies, but because I can't imagine waking up another day without you beside me. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, but this time they were tears of pure joy. A laugh bubbled up from her chest as she nodded. Yes, Nathan, 1,000 times yes. A week later, they had a small, intimate beach wedding where Luca, Ava, and Noah were their honorary guests, dressed in tiny outfits. Elena wore a simple white dress, her smile brighter than the golden sunset. As Nathan lifted her hand, whispering his vows, he said softly, From now until forever. Elena gazed into his eyes, knowing this wasn't a dream. This was the most beautiful reality she could ever ask for.